This Nerd Bite contains potential spoilers. You can find more details in the description below. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm so excited to talk about this because, this is the first time, and it feels so good to be like, so this must be how you feel, to be on the side where you're like, I actually really like this thing, and like on the opposite side, you did not, and
Yeah.
you were not a fan of this, and I was digging everything that this had to offer. I think, and it's weird.
I don't think we've ever been so opposite in this direction.
Yes, you're bringing it down, and I'm bringing it up.
And I actually really appreciate our differences in opinion on a lot of things. I think it kind of makes our conversations interesting because you say things that might piss me off about something I love, and maybe vice versa. I try not to I try to be more objective. We've talked extensively about this. You're a more emotional, I'd say maybe admittedly biased about certain aspects. You can't hear him nodding. But yeah, I don't know. And I wanted to like this. I really wanted to. No, I did. I mean, other than Avatar, I don't go into anything. I specifically try to go in with an open mind. I try to and I liked the trailers and stuff leading up to it. I know there was
You didn't like Daredevil?
So yeah, we can talk about. I don't holistically hate this show or say it doesn't have any irredeemable qualities. I think there were several things about it that I liked, but it just it just outweighed it. The weight of what was good was outweighed by what I ended up not liking about it.
All right, so let's talk about what you didn't like. What didn't you like besides the fact that she's a lady? Problematic.
Right. So obviously I hate women. No, I felt like the tone of breaking the fourth wall, it set up well in the first episode.
Okay.
But it landed with a thud for me in the conclusion of the show, where it made the whole show it tried to be really pithy and self-referential and self-aware of the fact that it was a show.
Yeah.
But for me, from my perspective, it just made it feel like the whole show was meaningless from its own perspective. It kind of landed in my mind where the writers didn't even care about writing a satisfying a satisfying conclusion. That's what it felt like. It's like they said it's like I would have understood it if the whole show they didn't make it seem like there was gonna be some conclusive thing, but the whole show it was like a tease. It was like they were teasing some sort of big thing, and then the finale was just like, oh yeah, we didn't even bother writing an ending. She's gonna break the fourth wall and do all these quirky Daredevil things, and I realized, or not Daredevil, Deadpool things, and I realized that's She-Hulk. From what I've read and what I've been told, she's a fourth wall breaking character in the same way that Deadpool is.
Yep.
So that makes sense, and it didn't bother me.
Put them together would be fantastic.
Yeah, I really liked it in the first few episodes. I remember liking her turning to camera when she was talking as a lawyer. I think it was in the very first episode, and then little moments where she was hanging out with Bruce, she would say something and Bruce would be like, what? She's like, nothing. And that felt fun and playful.
Yeah.
But for it to have turned the way it did in the conclusion of the finale, it just made the whole show feel like the writers didn't even bother writing a conclusion. It just felt lazy to me. It just felt lazy.
We're on complete opposite ends. The fact that they were able to already know what people were going to say about the show before the show even came out. They were like, you she broke the fourth wall, and it was like, you're probably going to say this. And literally people were saying that before the show came out.
But to me, that wasn't clever. It just felt lazy.
Really?
It just felt lazy, yeah.
And then the fact that we had a string of like Marvel TV shows that did not land the final episode and
That's
had like
definitely
a
true.
big stupid boss fight for no reason.
Even ones that I loved, Moon Knight was like the best example, I feel.
Yeah.
Like the show was so great and then the finale was like,
What is this? Yeah.
come on.
And it's like a big CGI boss fight, and then
Yeah.
the fact that she like referenced like no, like this is not how my show is going to end.
Hmm.
Like this is stupid. It makes sense. Like it's something that Deadpool would do.
Yeah.
He would reference the fact that everyone does a super, like when he did the whole superhero landing thing. Like he was reference.
That's fine for a moment, but not for the conclusion of a show.
I mean, it's not the her end all be all, but he did it for a movie, you know? Like it makes sense because of the string of like it's like she's very self-aware
Hmm.
of what people were already going to say in regards to her show. And so the writing was like phenomenal to me because
I guess it just came across as like they didn't even bother to like prove criticism wrong. They just bought into criticism.
they already knew what. Well, it's like she's a separate thing of Marvel. Like it's
Mm.
Marvel making fun of Marvel, and I enjoyed that because like as much as I love Marvel Studios, they have gotten into a rut where it's like it's not as great of content as they have been putting out before. And so like Guardians is like the first thing since Endgame maybe, WandaVision, Moon Knight that we've gotten that's like back to old Marvel, like really
Yeah,
good
no,
films.
I agree.
And so
Like
like
holistically,
yeah.
that is the best movie that's come out since Endgame to me.
Yeah.
That felt like an early phase Marvel project where
Mhm.
I love the movie as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like she's self-aware and the writers
That's
were
fine, dude.
aware to
Yeah.
be like this is how you're going to react to her being a woman. This is how it is being a woman in that society and how people view that. And then also like the ending having a stupid big boss battle and having Bruce come in and save the day or do like a Hulk versus Abomination fight. Like it doesn't seem like it was like, is he good? Is he not good? Like we don't really care.
It also just confused me
And
because
that
like
Kevin is a robot, that makes sense.
yeah. And there were parts of it that like I kind of chuckled. I'm trying to think. I remember specifically too. There was one episode that after like I felt like the show started really strong. Like
Okay.
I was really buying into the fourth wall breaking.
Yeah.
And then oh, I know what episode it was. It was the one where she went to her friend's wedding and she was
Oh.
like getting drunk
Yeah, yeah.
and she had that fight with Titania. I just remember thinking I had like laughed at moments the entire show.
Yeah.
And that was the first episode I like was very aware of the fact that I wasn't laughing at any of the jokes.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like it kind of I started to realize like, oh, this show it's not trying to do a typical Marvel story. So in that way, I guess I should have seen the way the show was going to end more.
Yeah.
But I guess I was just hoping that, I don't know, I feel like it didn't, the way it landed with me and just my feeling in my gut about the show is that they didn't feel like they believed in themselves enough to give her her own thing.
Okay.
And I guess that's kind of which I realize that wasn't any of their intentions. I think they were trying to do something
like satire against Marvel.
And admittedly, I'm 100% not the target audience for that, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you take risks and it pays off in a big way that everyone feels the same way about it.
Yeah. But a lot of people are on your side. They did not like this show.
Which to me, it's I take no pleasure in saying, like, I know there's a lot of people out there that I know there's a lot of people out there that like they feel that this show is like the biggest piece of trash ever.
That's wild.
I will admit there were several things in the show that I thought really worked and I really liked a lot. I liked seeing her and Bruce on like those first few episodes when Bruce kind of parted ways and left. Don't get me started on how much I hated him returning from Sakaar with
A son?
his son because for me, that story is the best Hulk story. So I'm very biased in that regard.
We'll
but
get
like
a Planet Hulk movie.
not now in the way that would be as satisfying as that, because the
Right, TV
reveal
show.
of his son and the way that all went in the comics was just so good. But that notwithstanding, I felt like a lot of this stuff, the chemistry between the two of them, her being his
Perfect.
cousin, was great.
Yeah.
Even though the power transfer thing was a little more comic booky than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Which that didn't even really bother me that much. But I know I've talked extensively with you about how Marvel does such a good job at like rationalizing what could be a really corny thing, like Guardians. I always think about Mysterio in
Fishbowl.
Yeah, it's just, like he looks so stupid, and his name is Mysterio, and he's like a special effects artist. But the way they did it in the movie, I was like
perfect.
I love it. It's great. They did such a good job like explaining it in the world of this the cinematic universe. So that being said, I thought they were going to be a little more inventive with the way that she got her powers, and it pretty much ended up being almost exactly the way she gets her powers in the comics, which is fine. That's totally fine.
Megan liked it. Didn't she?
Yeah, Megan did like it.
You watched it together?
Yeah. We watched the whole thing. I think every episode together. Yeah.
Interesting. I have a theory.
Yeah.
But I'm still testing it out.
Okay.
I'm wondering if we watch things together, if we're more likely to impress or be able to alter our rating when we watch it together rather than when we watch it apart.
I'd say that would be 100% true in one direction. I think you would influence me more than the other way around.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when you feel strongly about something, there's like no budging it. Which is why like I keep coming back to like I don't take pleasure in the fact that and most of the time I can kind of be swayed on like if you can kind of rationalize something to me, I feel like I can come to grow an appreciation for something that wasn't previously there.
Yeah.
But I've rewatched episodes of this. Some of them I still love. I love her interactions with Bruce. I love her interactions with Daredevil.
Yeah.
I thought that episode with Daredevil was great. I think that episode of her at the wedding is one of the worst things Marvel has made. In my opinion, that episode was just like a waste of time. I felt the same way about the episode 3 of Loki. It was like, just get this episode and pretend it never existed.
Bad.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Episode 3 of Loki was like it was like anime throwaway, like bad. Like what are we doing?
That's how I felt about that.
It had no substance at all.
Do you even remember a point to that wedding episode?
I remember the wedding episode. I don't like. I remember them.
Lamentus. I remember the name of the planet they were on.
I only remember that they were on a train.
Okay.
I don't know why. And they end the episode with things blowing up, and like.
Well, that I'm not going to argue.
I also hated Loki. So.
Hated Loki.
Yeah.
The show as a whole.
Can you say you hated the show if you were okay with the last episode? I think so. I hated it.
Loki. I can't do this podcast with you anymore.
Loki is not.
I don't know what to say to that.
Loki is not a good show. This is one of the times where I piss you off. with my opinion of things that you really love.
Yeah.
I hated Loki, but that's
I
just
feel
me.
like that is so much more aggressive than any time you've ever talked about Loki to me.
Probably because
Yeah.
I'm very cautious of your feelings, but now the camera's on.
So now you don't give,
Yeah, I don't
you
care.
don't give a crap.
Yeah.
That's really harsh and untrue.
If you punch me, it's on camera.
Yeah. There's officers waiting outside.
No.
I would argue
Okay.
that Loki has done more for the Marvel Cinematic Universe since Endgame than just about any show or movie that's come out since then.
Because he broke the universe, but that was the last episode. Besides that, he did nothing.
None of the logic of anything works unless Loki worked, and it does.
I don't think so. I think the last episode of Loki worked, but everything else could be thrown away. What's the point? We never
Was the
heard,
last episode of
we,
Loki in Loki?
but we never heard of the TVA. Like Loki as a whole does not add anything to the MCU.
The show?
No,
I don't understand how you could say that and not.
it just doesn't.
Like, the whole logic of the way the multiverse works and timelines
You could.
is fully articulated and explained and practiced in the Loki show.
Not a great way either. It's not a. I don't know.
I would argue.
I would argue. I would counter argue with you and say
we're already arguing.
we already are.
So you're
Stop.
so this
Stop.
is like
the kids. The kids are crying.
This is like Inception, where you're already dreaming and you go a level lower. So we have to fight our way out of that argument and then resolve the previous argument.
So this is what I would say.
Yeah.
I would say
We're going backwards.
Spider-Man,
Yeah.
No Way Home
Uh-huh.
has more of an impact than Loki does
On what?
on the multiverse
How so?
because it talks about multiverse.
Okay, so does Multiverse of Madness.
But it
and
was
you
all
hated that
it was
movie.
all about. But like he didn't.
You just like Spider-Man.
That is true.
And I'm not arguing that it's a bad movie, but I'm not.
But it
doesn't do more for the multiverse.
I think
Loki
it does because he breaks
No.
the multiverse. I mean, it was all Spider-Man stuff, but like if it wasn't like the entire movie was about that. Whereas Loki,
But
it was about the
logic,
TVA,
the whole logic of
figuring
the
out
way
who the TVA is.
the way time travel fits, and this is the thing that, because I went into this saga and that we didn't know at the time that it was the multiverse saga, but all of the multiverse movies they were announcing made me nervous because I was like, I feel like the minute you start introducing the idea of multiple realities or intersecting timelines, it can just get really convoluted and really messy, and you can lose
nothing.
Death means nothing because you lose all sense of stakes, because the minute Peter Parker dies, it's like, oh, it's okay, we'll take him from 2 days ago, he's good to go, good, let's go. And that made me super nervous. But the way Loki worked and the invention of the sacred timeline is like the most brilliant piece of writing. And I feel like it absolves so much because it really made it to where everything we'd watched from Iron Man 1, and I guess technically like further back, even like Eternals, like prehistory, going up to like Captain America, First Avenger, and then I guess Captain Marvel. Like I can't remember the chronology of who goes further back and what starts first. But everything that led up to
Captain Marvel starts first. No,
not before First Avenger.
Yeah, it's First Avenger, then Captain Marvel.
Yeah. But I guess technically, the reason I mentioned Eternals is because they go back to like 500 AD or something like that.
But the movie didn't take place back then.
No, I see what you're saying. But everything that led up to the events of Loki, and what is now currently happening with all of these multiverse stories, Quantumania, Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man Far From Home or No Way Home, um, they would not have been possible without the logic of the TVA and what was put in place by that version of Kang that was running that TVA and the idea of the sacred timeline.
I think that would have been,
And it would have made everything that came before it superfluous.
I think that would have been a
And
great reveal, you know?
I could literally talk about this all day.
But like, I think it would have been a great reveal, and it was
What?
for the last episode, like that he was running all of those things. But like Loki, the story as a whole, him learning about the TVA and that Sylvie is like another version of him was not. I don't, and this is the thing, like you, I thought that I would actually enjoy Loki because I like Tom Hiddleston as Loki. I like the character.
I was
Loki.
actually nervous about it
Yeah.
because I knew it dealt with time travel and the TVA.
and like,
And I was like, they're gonna screw up everything about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I felt like I was gonna go back and rewatch the first Avengers and be like, well, none of this matters because blah blah blah.
see, but
And
like
the way they set it up is like you get to fully appreciate everything that came before it because it's the sacred timeline.
You know who you sound like? You sound like one of those nutty professors with like the crazy hair and they're scribbling stuff on the board.
You know, nutty professors are pretty smart, so
some might call them crazy.
They don't become professors for no reason. I'm tenured at this point. You can't fire me.
You can't fire me. Man, you're right. You are absolutely correct. When I have an opinion, there is no swaying it.
That's exactly what, like, it would. The fact that you would even ask that question about us watching something together is hilarious to me because it's like, if I cared about swaying your opinion, I would lose my mind.
Mm-hmm. It would be hard.
Yeah,
it's hard.
Although I feel like
you do sometimes sway my opinion. I won't say you don't.
When have I ever done that?
You swayed my opinion up for Guardians.
The new one?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I guess I kind of did.
See? Huh? See? But Loki, absolutely not. It was a tough watch. It's like as bad to watch as Jessica Jones.
I like Jessica Jones.
Oh my gosh.
So who hates women now? It's the same show. Only she doesn't break the fourth wall.
Yeah, that show.
She's a PI and she actually punches people.
And it's
Here's what I found.
Siri, we are not pulling you into this episode.
It is bad. That show is that show is as bad as Iron Fist.
Purple, even the first season, Purple Man?
I didn't even. There's a second season?
Yeah.
Ugh, yuck. I'm glad they got rid of those. And just bringing.
It's on, bro. The fact that you can bash Jessica Jones or anything, and watch the first 2 episodes of Inhumans and say anything, but it was absolute garbage. One of the worst things I've ever forced myself to watch.
It wasn't that bad,
bro. I can't do it. This is why I can't argue with you.
It wasn't that bad.
It was
actually all right.
If you think like I'm a nutty professor now, try to like change the multiverse. There's some multiverse where I care what you think and I'm in a mental institution. I'm in a straitjacket because I can't convince you of anything. And I know that you're wrong.
We're both in a mental institution.
We're in opposite padded rooms just yelling through a 4x4 window. You're wrong about the multiverse.
Loki was trash.
Shut him up. I break out of my bonds just to cover my ears.
No. Tom Hiddleston doesn't know how to play Loki anymore. Yeah, Loki is bad. But
how did we end up talking about Loki so long when we were supposed to be talking about She-Hulk?
I hated it, and that just broke a piece of your brain. And
I feel honestly, if I didn't feel so strongly about how much I loved the rationalization of time travel, I would not have even cared enough to defend it. But I feel like it needed to be said. I've spoken my piece. I'm not going to change your mind.
All right, so I will say my
Um,
last piece. Loki is a piece of in a pile of garbage. It needs to be thrown in the trash. Take away the last episode because that's necessary. Everything else, but I will say, possibly they might pull a Mandalorian, and I might like season 2.
yeah, we'll see how much that did for you with Mandalorian season 3.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much they please you. You have such a grudge against things that you don't care about.
It's not even that I don't care about them. It's like it's hard. Well, it is that I don't care about them.
Yes,
I was like, that's a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie.
Your self-awareness right now.
Wait a minute. I don't care.
What did I just say?
The powder room. Wait a minute.
All right, so She-Hulk.
Yeah.
I extremely liked certain aspects of it, but I
Hates women.
I hated aspects of it more.
Mm.
You know what? To give it its due, I thought it had some great comedy in times.
Mm.
So wait, you don't feel that way? Yeah. So now I'm defending it? What's going on
No,
here?
you're not defending it. I'm not against comedy.
The episode where she went to Abomination's ranch,
hilarious.
that was so good.
Yeah.
Like I was laughing, and that one felt like a sitcom to me. There wasn't, to my recollection, there wasn't a lot of action in that.
No.
Was Daredevil in that episode? I don't think so.
No, because it was leading up to the last episode.
Yeah, I thought like so much of the humor and like their circle talk was like great.
Yeah,
I laughed at a lot of that. I thought it was good.
See?
Yeah.
So, what's your score?
Well, I have to give it a
What's your score?
between 5 and 6 probably.
Out of what?
Out of 10. I can't give it more than that just because there was so much I didn't like about it. Probably like a 5.5. Maybe I'll give it a 6.
Wow.
I'll give it a 6.
No,
And only because you're giving me guff about it.
Yeah.
I'd probably give it a solid 5 if you weren't.
Wow. That's crazy.
I'll bump it up.
You know what I give it?
What?
8.5.
I thought you were going to say 10. That's not even that high.
It's high for me.
You gave Avatar.
High for me.
Yeah.
For sure.
The way you're talking about it, I thought it was going to be a 10.
No, it's 8.5. 8.7.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, you know another thing I didn't like about it?
Oh, boy. What's up?
It, I felt diluted the, how do I explain this? The world building of like the current continuity of how many people have powers. It just was like, yeah, like everyone has powers for like no reason. It's just like there's this random bull guy, there's this guy who can live forever. They don't bother to explain.
I think they're working on explaining that for like
Yeah,
X-Men.
but they should have done it in this. Like they should have at least alluded to the idea that like, yeah, powers are popping up everywhere. We can't really explain it. Something's happening to the human genome or something. That's fine if you're going to lead that to X-Men.
Yeah.
But it was just like, oh yeah, no, everyone has powers. And so much so that we have a whole dedicated law firm to deal with people that interact with their powers. So that to me was like, I think it was like
it was a nod.
And it was just like, it was like a little shit. Like I started out liking it and I liked the second episode and then I didn't like the third one. And then it was just like little chisels. And by the end, the way it concluded, I was like, I want to. There were parts of it I liked. I just can't.
It was boring.
Some of them were. So,
That's how I feel about Loki.
All right, that's fine. You can feel that way. I don't hate you.
But for most of it, pretty much all of it, except the last episode. Yeah.
All right, you ready to move on? All right, that brings us to the end of this episode. Guys, thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please follow this podcast wherever you're listening to it. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all major podcast platforms. And if you like this episode, Keep an eye out for our companion videos where we address specific topics related to the same thing. Here at Nerd Institute, we really love hearing from you guys. If you have any questions, if you're following along with any of the series that we're reviewing, please send in your questions. Tell us what you guys are thinking. We just might use your question as a topic for one of our podcast episodes. Engage in our matchup tournaments where we pin characters from all of our favorite franchises up against each other to see who you think might win in a fight. And of course, like and follow all of our content across social media. That's Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter at nerd_institute. And if you don't feel like using social media, you can always message us directly with any comments, questions, topics, or concerns at anerd33@gmail.com. And until next time, later nerds.